Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Menahot, Daf Kav Gimel Amud Aleph, Daf Yomi, but we're going to, sorry, Kav Chet, Kav Zayin Amud Aleph, but we're going to start on Kavav Amud Bet. Okay, 26b. We were by Itmar. Okay, so this is going to be by the two dots. If you look halfway down the page, you have the two dots where it says Itmar, it was stated. So Itmar, it was stated. Yeah, he says over here like this. Kometz, Mematai Matir Shiraim Bachila. The Kometz, when is it going to permit the Shiraim in eating? The Shiraim, the leftovers. The Kometz is you do like this, and that's going to permit all the leftovers of the Mincha. When is it going to be permitted in eating? The second that the fire starts consuming the Kometz, you're allowed to eat the Mincha. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, as long as the fire starts already getting on the majority of it. Meaning if the fire is going to come and get on the majority, so that's already going to be enough. Okay? So says the Gemara, Amar le Rav Yehuda le Rabba bar Rav Yitzchak, says Rav Yehuda to Rabba bar Rav Yitzchak, Asbira lecha tama de Rabbi Yochanan, I'm going to explain to you the reasoning of Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Kra, the Pasuk says, Vine ala kitora aretz ke kitora kivshan. He comes and he says that it's going to go up, the kitora aretz, like the kitora kivshan. En kivshan ma'ale kitor al shetatzita ur berubo. So he says, right, you should know that the kometz, right, is going to be the iktid, so it's going to be that it's going to get the majority on the fire. Meaning, once the fire starts getting on the majority of the kometz,
what are we trying to get to?
We want to eat the shinaim. When are you allowed to? The leftovers.
Same day.
Of course, but when are you allowed to?
As soon as what you're trying to say is as soon as it hits the fire.
So there's a machloket. According to the first shita, it has to be. Right? According to the first shita, it has to be, right? According to the first shita, it has to be mishemashla etaur, which means that the second that the fire gets a little bit of it. But according to the second shita, you need that it's tatsit bo etaur berubo. It has to be that the ur is going to get the majority of it. The ur is fire. Okay, the ur is the fire. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So says the Gemara like this. Okay, Amar le Ravin bar Avada le Rava. Says Ravin bar Avada to Rava. Amri talmidecha amar Rav Amram. Says talmidecha in the name of Amram. Tanya, we learned in a Braita. El ni ela dvarim shedarkan li karev balayla. Those are only the things which are going to be in the nighttime. Kigon, for example, evarim uptarim. שמעלנו מקטירן מבוא השמש שמתקנים והולכים כל הלילה כולה, דברים שדרכם להתקרב ביום, but things which are going to be brought during the day, כגון הקומץ והלבונה והקטורת ומנחת כהנים ומנחת כהן משיח ומנחת נשיאים שמעלים מקטירים מבוא השמש, right? So that's going to be ואמרת דרכם להתקרב ביום. So it's mashma that how are you going to bring it with ביאת השמש? So אלא but rather in בוא השמש. What does that mean? Before ביאת השמש. ומתקלים והולכים כל הלילה, then they're going to come and it's going to go the entire night time. מניין, how do we know? תמוד לומר זאת תורת העולה. Riba. When it says Zotorat Haolah, it's going to come and it's going to be Riba et Hakol. Yeah? So Vehaim Bo Hashemesh Lo Mashkach Ala Shetatzita Ur Berubo. So says the Gemara Lakashi, it's not a question. Kan liklot vekan latir. He says here, the Braita, which is going to be Matira to bring with the Shemesh, is talking about liklot, which means that the Mizbeach is going to be kolet the Korban. And Kan over here, what to do with Rabbi Yochanan, it's latir, which is going to be permitting, right, the shiraim ba'achila. Rabbi Lazar matin la mibo shemesh mukim la bepokin. We're talking about that it was going to be pak'u from the esh. V'chen ki'ata Rav Dimi amar Rabbi Yanai bepokin. We're talking about pokin. So mi amar Rabbi Yanai. Does Rabbi Yanai actually say this? V'hamar Rabbi Yanai k'todet shepakam elav mizbeach. The second that it fell off from the mizbeach, afilu kratin, even chatichot shlemot sheba, you don't bring it back to the mizbeach. You remember that we said that sometimes you put things on the mizbeach and then it pops out. It's like, you put something on the fire and it pops out. But remember, there's no. So here, these ones, you don't have to put it back on. You only have to bring back the olah, but you don't have to bring back the ikulek ketoret. So that means the olah, you're right, the olah had to be completely consumed on the mizbeach. So even if a part of the olah jumped off because of the fire and it came off, you have to bring it back on.
The rest of them you throw it out? No.
The rest of you don't have to bring it back at all. Yeah, you just leave it. That's it. You don't have any problem with it. So Sami Mikan Ketoret, you're right. You have to take off the Ketoret. Amar Avasi says Avasi. Ki Pashit Rabbi Elazar Menahot. When Rabbi Elazar came and he taught Masechet Menahot, he taught like this. Komet shesidro v'sidur alav maracha. What's halacha when you have a kometz that the Kohen comes and he puts it on? What's halacha? Derech haktara bekach or en derech haktara bekach? Do you say that it's derech haktara or not? So teku. Answers the Gemara teku. So by Chizkiah comes and he says, Evarin shesidram v'sidiran manechet mahu. When you have evarin, that the Kohen came and he put it on the Mizbeach, and he was misader on the Maracha, what is halacha? Right? Ala etzim amarachmana dafka ala etzim. Do you say it's dafka ala etzim? Or dima given dichtiv, since it's written krachlin, and there's another pasuk, shetuchal hayeshet haol al mizbeach, ibay hachi avid, ibay hachi avid. So he comes and he says, if you want, you could do one way or the other way, which means if you want, you could do l'sader et korban ala etzim, just like the first pasuk, and if you want, you could be misader et korban on mizbeach mamash, not on the etzim, but on the actual mizbeach. So says the Gemara, Teiko, you're right, we don't have an answer. So by Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Evarin Shesidam B'tzidei Maracha, if you put it on the side of the Maracha, what's halacha? So Aliba the Mandamar, according to Mandamar, that says Al is Al Mamash, Lo Tibay Lecha is not a doubt, Te Al Etzim Ktiv, but it's written Al Etzim. Ki Tibay Lecha, when is the question? Aliba the Mandamar, Al, which means Bisamuch. Meaning basically the question is when it says Al, does Al mean Mamash on top of something or beside something? Sure. Right? So he says, what's the halacha? Hachanami Al is Bisamuch, Odima Al Etzim, Dumya de Al Mizbeach. Right? Just like over there, it's al is mamash. So to here, it's be al mamash. So teku, we don't have an answer. Okay? Fine. We're starting new. This is right now today's daf. Right? Which means tomorrow's daf, right? But it's today. Okay? Yeah, Kavzain. Okay, Kavzain and Mudalef on the top, Mishnah. Okay? A komets. Right? When we're talking about now the komets. Miuto me'akev et rubo. The miut is me'akev the rov. Meaning, even if it's going to be chaser kol shehu, the entire thing is pasul. You need the full komets to come and to go on the Mizbeach.
How much is the measure?
Whatever fits. Yeah?
In the nail?
No, here, in the palm. You come like this. And then here you, like this, you...
Shave off?
Yeah, you shave off, right? On the top and the bottom. Okay? Isaron, when we're talking about the Isaron solet, miuto me'akev et rubo, the yain, miuto me'akev et rubo, shemen, miuto me'akev et rubo, solet ve'shemen, me'akvin ze et ze. That means the solet and the shemen, each one is going to be ma'akev. That means if you're missing the solet, you're missing the shemen, it's a problem. Ha-komets ve'levona me'akvin ze et ze. And also the komets and the levona are going to be me'akvin ze et ze. Okay? Fine. That was a Mishnah. Now let's start. My Tama. Says the Gemara, why is it that if you're missing even a little bit of it, why is it that all of a sudden it's going to be me'akev? So Amar Akra, the Pasuk says, yeah, he says like this. He says, melo kumtso. When it says melo kumtso, right, what does that mean? So he says trezimne. Why does it say twice melo kumtso? So isaron, right, miuto me'akev et rubo. Right? The miut is me'akev et rubo. My Tama, what's the reasoning? Amar Kra, the Pasuk says, misoltah she'im chasera kol shehu pesula. That if it's going to be chaser kol shehu, it's going to be pasul. The yain is miuto me'akev et rubo. Right? Why is the yain me'akev et rubo? He says, kacha yaseh lo shoreh echad. So the word kacha is teaching that it's going to be me'akev. The shemen is right miuto is me'akev et rubo. Why? Because it says also kacha. Kacha means it's me'akev. We went like this. If I'm going to come and tell you in the Torah, this is the way that you have to do it. Kacha, when you say kacha, it has to be exactly that. And if it's not exactly that, it's pasul. And that's why we say that even a mi'ut is going to be posel, the entire thing. Why? But it has to be exactly like this. It cannot be anything less.
So where is it written, kacha?
In the Torah. The Torah says by the nechasim, by the nesachim and everything, it says kacha. It says by the yain, kacha yaseh l'shoreh echad. Kacha. So whenever it says the word kacha, it's teaching you that the shiurim are me'akev. They impede. Okay, means you have to have those shiurim. Okay? Umishamna, shim chaser kolshu, it's going to be psula. Shemen v'solet me'akvin. Right, zed. The shemen and solet is going to be me'akvin. Misolta umishamna, migirsah umishamna. So he comes and he says, "Hakomets v'levona me'akvin zed al kol levonata ve'et kol levona shel mincha." He says when it says al kol levonata, it means that it's also right the levona shel mincha. Okay, fine. Let's go. The next two. We're talking about now the next Mishnah. Shene seire yom akipurim. When we have the two he-goats of the Yom Kippurim, makvin zed zeh, they impede each other. You remember we said you always have to have two. You cannot have one. You need two. Shne kivse atzeret, makvin zed zeh. Same thing. Right? Shte chalot, makvot zo et zo. So the two chalot are also going to be makvot zo et zo. Right? This is the two chalot of Chag HaShavuot. Okay? The shne kivse atzeret is again Chag HaShavuot. Shne sdarim, the two sdarim of Lechem HaPanim. You have 6 and 6. Makvin zed zeh. Shne bazichin, the two bazichin. Remember that on every single 6 of the lechem apanim, you had a bazich, you had like a spoonful of the frankincense. It's also makvin zedze. Hasdarim v'bazichim makvin zedze. Each one is makev each other. Shne minim shebenazir, the two different breads by the nazir, or the 3 different breads by the para. No, sorry, the 3 different breads by the para. The 3 different species by the para, right? 1 second. The 2 minim of the nazir. Let me just see what this is. He has to bring an olah, chatat, and shlamim. And he has to bring 2 lichamim with the shlamim. Okay. So he's bringing 2 different. That's by the nazir. Now by the para aduma, it says you have the main chatat. The 3 minim are the etz erez, ezov, shni talat. Okay, those are the 3 minim species. We're not talking about breads. Okay, the other one was 2 breads by the nazir. The 4 species of breads by the korban todah. You remember there were 40 loaves, but it's 4 groups of 10. Or the 4 species of the lulav. Or the 4 species by the mitzorah in order to purify the mitzorah. Okay, that's it's erez zevzol shni talat and shte tzipurim. Okay, and so in all these cases they're all ma'akev, meaning just like, for example, somebody's going to come and he's going to tell you, Rabbi, I don't have the hadas, so I only have a lulav, an arava, and an etrog. It's ma'akev. You're not used to the chuvah. You don't have. Okay, but you're not used to chuvah. They're ma'akev. Zeh. And the same thing with all the other things. All the other things, if you're missing one of the species, it's not going to help you. Hazat shebapara hazaot, the different hazaot of the paraduma is going to be ma'akvot zotu. So if you didn't do it completely, it doesn't help you. Meaning that you have to do it on the 3rd day and then the 7th day, right? And you have to do it keneged hechal. If you don't do it, that's it. It says sheva hazaot kulan ma'akvot. He says you're doing it 7 times. Sorry, these are the 7 hazaot of the keneged hechal. So why does it say here the paraduma? One more time. It's nisrefet behar hazetim mula mikdash. Okay, and then you have to do it 7 times, keneged hechal. So those 7 times that you're doing by the hechal are impede. The sheva zayot shel ben amadim, or the 7 times that you're doing it in the Aron HaKodesh, on the parochet, or al mizbach hazav, they also impede. So bikitzur, what we're saying in this Mishnah is, everything is always impeding in these numbers, and therefore it has to be specifically, whether it's these numbers or these species, you need everything completely. Okay? Now, obviously, what is the Gemara going to do? One by one, to bring proofs that how do you know that all these things are. So let's start. How do we know that you have to have 2 seirei Yom Kippurim? So he says, chukah. It says in the Torah, chukah. Shne kivsei atzeret makvin zedze. When it says 2 kivsei atzeret is makvin zedze, right? Is why? Because it says havaya. Meaning, the fact that it says chukah, so we already learned that the word chukah is showing that it's me'akev. You remember we brought down that if it says chukah and it says kohanim, or if it says the word chok, it's me'akev. The 2 kivsei atzeret, it says havaya, meaning it has to be that way. Shte chalot, it also says havaya, right? It also has to be that way. Okay, it says so letiena, or kodesh yu. Shne sdarin, it's written chukah. Shne bazichin, it's written chukah. The sdirin ubasichin, it's written chukah. The 2 minim of the nazir, it's written ken ya'aseh. So basically, whenever it's written shetiyeh, havaya means it has to be exactly that way. Or it's written chok, because chok is me'akev even b'diavad. Or it's written ken ya'aseh, this is the way you have to do it. Shlosha shebepara is written chukah. Arba'a of the todah is written, it's a kesh to the nazir. Dichtiv, as it says, al zevach todat shelamav. More shlamav is coming to include the shamnei nazir. The 4 of the mitzorah is written zotieh todat mitzorah. This has to be tieh, haya, vaya, havaya. Remember, whenever it's written havaya, it has to be that way. Amar, right? He says as follows. Yeah, Amar. Yeah. He comes and he says like this. He says, ve'arba'a shebelulav. It says ulkachtem. Now, when it says ulkachtem, it has to be lekichatama. Lekichatama means you have to take it in the perfect way. And therefore, by the lulav and the trog, since it says ulkachtem lachem hayom rishon, you have to take it in the perfect way. It's not perfect if you're missing one of the species. So, Amar Rav Chanan bar Rav, lo shanu ela she'en lo, aval yesh lo me'akvin. He says, that's only if you don't have all the 4 species. But if you have the 4 species, but just you don't take them in one hand, right? You are going to be Yitzhak Chovah. Okay? Yeah, the fact that you do have them. You remember we spoke about this many times, that anything which is Raul Bila and Bila Me'akevet, anybody Bila then Bila Me'akevet. You remember basically that you remember we spoke about it, that the contacts, right, in your eyes, if you go into the mikveh. So you don't have to open up your eyes in the mikveh. But if you have contacts in your eyes, then it's a chatzitza. Now the question is why? If I could go in and I don't need to open up my eyes, so then why is it that if I have contacts, so it's a chatzitza? And the answer is because anything which is fitting that the eyes would go in and you could open up your eyes and it could go there, so then it's going to be kosher. But if right now the eyes cannot get the water, even though I'm not obligated to do it, so now it is makiv. Now it does. So the same concept, okay? Meitvei. So we're going to ask the following question now. Arba'a minin shebelulav. When you have four species of the lulav, shnai mehen osim perot. Two of them they make fruits, right? Which is basically the etrog and the dekel, right? They make fruits. The etrog makes fruits, and the dekel, the palm tree, makes fruit, which is the lulav, makes fruits. Shnai mehem they don't make fruits, meaning the hadas and arava they don't have fruits. Haosim perot yuzukin shenosim v'shen osim perot yuzukin osim perot. V'nadam yisachvato ba'en shei kulam agada. So he says you need a aguda achat. V'chen Yisrael, the same halacha would apply to Yisrael. Be'artza'ah, when they're going to come and they're going to be answered, ad shiu kulam aguda achat. You need all of them to be ba'aguda achat. Meaning we need the tzaddikim and the reshaim to be together in order to be answered. Hashem is not going to answer us just for the tzaddikim. Just like the lulav and etrog, some of them make fruit, some of them don't make fruit, and therefore you need all four of them in order to come and to be Yitzhak Chovah. So too, when we're going to be answered at tefillot, you need the tzaddikim and the reshaim. Why do you think we have reshaim come, even if they're going to come late and they're going to come bekoshi, I don't know what, and they come and they start. We need them. Yeah, you heard. We need them. Yeah, shneimar, but it says in the pasuk. הבונה בשמיים מעלותיו ואגודתו לארץ יסדה. So says the Gemara tonight, you're right, it's machloket tonight. The Tanya was we learned in a Braita, lulav, ben agud or ben sheno agud, whether it's going to be agud or not agud, kasher, it's going to be kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says agud is going to be kosher, sheno agud is going to be pasul. My time, Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda? He says, gamar kicha kicha, we learned the gzira shava, kicha kicha me'agudat ezov. Just like over there, it has to be an aguda. So too by the lulav, it has to be an aguda. For Rabbanan, but the Rabbanan, they didn't teach this gzera shava. So that means basically what was happening is that according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, if you don't have an aguda, meaning that it has to be an aguda, you have to actually tie it together and it has to be together as one. If you don't have that, it's why? He learned it as a gzera shava. So for him, it's a gzera shava. That's the way you have to learn it. So kemanaz lahad tanya lulav mitzvah logdo. That there's a mitzvah logdo. If you don't do it, it's still kosher. So obviously, it can't be like Rabbi Yehuda. But if it's going to be Rabbi Yehuda logdo, my kasha was going to be kosher. And if it's according to Rabbanan, it's a mitzvah. There's still a mitzvah to do it, right? But you don't have to do it at all. So he says, no. Leolam, it is the rabbis. Umay mitzvah mishum zekli. There is still. That means even according to the rabbis, you're not obligated to do it. There's still a mitzvah to tie it together because zekli vanveo. Zekli vanveo that we just learned in last week's parasha is a mitzvah lehitnaot lefanav b'mitzvot, meaning that all the mitzvot that you should do should be beautiful. People will come and they'll try to get the nicest cars, right? Like Teslas and these BMWs and these pickup trucks and all the other things, right? And then when it comes to do with the mitzvah, you look at their mitzvot and like misken, the talit has been worn probably from his great grandfather, and he never actually got a new talit. You understand? Or the tefillin, or this, or his mezuzot has been, you understand? So therefore, what we're trying to do is we're trying to realize that it has to be that we have to beautify the mitzvah. Okay? Vanvehu, I will glorify him. Ze Eli, this is my God, Vanvehu, and I will make him glorified. No, it's so it says the Gemara, the 7 hazaot on the para me'akvot zu, because it's also written chukah. Remember, anytime that it's written chukah, it's me'akev. This is the 7 hazaot by the paraduma, meaning when they do the paraduma, they come, they sprinkle by the mizbeach, by the Hechal, and then that's when it's going to become kosher for doing paraduma. The 7 hazaot on berabadim, mizbach hazav, parochet is on Kippur, all these things. Also me'akvot zodzo. Why? But by Yom Kippurim, it also says chukah. By the Par Kohen HaMashiach and Par Elem Davar Shel Tzibur and by the Sidei of the Kochavim, what's the reason why it's me'akev? So he says, Kedetanya ve'asa lapar kasher asa lepar. What does that mean? Matamul umar lichpol be'azaot. What are we talking about that you're doing so many azaot? Right? Kav Zayin Amud Bet. Right? 27b. Shim chiser acham mikol min hamatanot. But if you lacked one of these presents, right? Lo asa klum. You did not do anything. Okay? Fine. We're on the 2 dots on Kav Zayin Amud Bet. 27b, the 2 dots. Second line. Tanu Rabbana. Okay, we learned in a Braita. Sheva hazaot shebepara she'asaan shelo ben shelo lishmam ben shelo mechuvanot psulot. If you have the 7 azalot of the paraduma and you did it shelo lishma, or you did it not keneged petach hechal, it's going to be pasul. The bifnim, and the ones which are supposed to be the chataot pnimiot or the mitzorah shelo lishman, it's also going to be psulot. Shelo mechuvanot, it's going to be ksherot. But if it was going to be lo mechuvanot, what is lo mechuvanot? Which means that even if he wasn't standing between the mizrach and ma'arav and the parav and ma'arav, but he was like, with the back turned somewhere else, so it's still going to be kosher. Okay, that means even if he was doing it in the wrong direction, but as long as he was doing it inside, if it's going to be shelo lishma, it's pasul. But if he did it shelo mechuvan, it's still kosher. So Vatanya, we learned to the Braita, para shelo lishman psulot shelo mechuvanot ksherot. Meaning the first part said that by the para, whether it's shelo lishma or lo mechuvanot, it's pasul. Here it's saying lo mechuvanot is kasher by the para aduma. We're in the para. So Amar of Chasta says Rabbi Chasta lakash. It's not a question. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan. It's machlok. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says that it's going to be kasher, and Rabbanan says it's pasul. The time was learned on a Braita. Yeah. Mechusare kapara shenichnesu la'azara. When you have mechusare kapara, that they came into the azara. Beshogeg, they came in beshogeg. You're going to be chayav chatat. Bemezid, you're going to be anushkaret. Then tzarich lomar tovul yom ushak kol atmim. No, you don't have to mention about anything about the tovul yom. Uteorim shenichnesu lifnim mechitzatan. When you have teorim that they came in inside of the mechitza, la'echal kulo 40 ב-40 מבלה פרוכת אל פני הכפורת במיתה. רבי יהודה אומר, רבי יהודה says, כל אחד כולו מבלה פרוכת ב-40 ואל פני הכפורת, right, במיתה. So b'maika mipalge, what are we're arguing with? B'haikar, the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Moshe, daber el Aaron achicha, v'levo b'cholet el hakodesh right mibel haparochet b'nei kaporet, asher elam v'lo yamut." Rabbanan savre el hakodesh, right, b'lo yavo mibel haparochet b'nei kaporet b'lo yamut. So Yehuda savar el hakodesh mibel haparochet lo yavo el pnei kaporet b'lo yamut. What's the reasoning of the Rabbanan? If you're going to tell me now, like Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, "Lichtov Rachmanan," the pasuk should have said el hakodesh v'lepnei kaporet, and you don't have to say mibet la parochet. And I'm going to say, La'echal, you're going to be Michayev Malkut. But you go from the Mibet Parochet Mibaya. So he says, Mibet Parochet, why do you need it then? Shema Mina comes to teach you that if you come to the Beta Parochet, right, you're going to be judged with death. Right? That's what's actually happening over here. Which means that here we're talking about, right, that Mamash is a powerful punishment. Yeah, that means basically it's going to come out that if you're going to go into the Kodesh Kodashim before going to the Aron, you're not going to be Chayav el Malkut. And here we're saying no, it's actually death if a person goes into the Kodesh Kodashim. Yeah, meaning a person can't just come into the Kodesh Kodashim whenever he wants. Okay. Right? Remember, it's only the Kiddush, it's only the Kohen Gadol on Kippur. That's the only time.
Say that it could be without a kavanah.
No. That's what we're saying. We're saying here is the mamash that he's. No, it's not. Shelo bechavana was on the sprinkling of the thing. This is afterwards. Rabbi Yehuda says, "I katav rachmana la kodesh v'lo katav mibela parochet." Hava mina, I would have thought say what is kodesh mibela parochet, right? Aval lechal lavna milo. I would say no. For Rabbanan, aul lo metzitam. Why the echal kulo ikra kodesh? The entire echal is called the kodesh. Neimar v'dila parochet lechem ben kodesh ben kodesh kodeshim. Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, my time on what's the reasoning? He says, Isa kadait hakili kama Rabbi Yehuda. If you're going to tell me like the Rabbi said, Lichtov Rachmana, the Torah should have written Ela Kodesh umibela parochet, velo baye el penei kaporet. Right? Vana mina, I'm going to say mibela parochet mimita el penei kaporet mibaye. So el penei kaporet dekatov Rachmana lamali. Why do I need this? Shamay mina comes teach you el penei kaporet bemita mibela parochet is an azara. The Rabbanan, and according to the rabbis, hachenami de lo tzarich. You don't need this. V'hada katav rachmana lepenei kaporet lemiut derech meshupash. It's coming to teach you, right, not like the normal way, that you're not going to be chayav mitak. Right, the Dever of Eliezer ben Yaakov, al penei kaporet kedma ze bena'av. It's a binyan av. That anytime that it says penei, ela penei kadim. It has to be tzad mizrach. That means when the Torah comes and it says that you're coming into the Kodesh Kodashim, el penei kaporet, you're going to be chayav mitah. It's only coming if you're coming from the east. Right? Keneged the tzad mizrachi to the kaporet. For Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yehuda just says, so why didn't it say penei? What does it mean el penei kaporet? Shmamina el is davka, and according to Rabbanan, it's lav davka. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that he says el penei kaporet is davka. When it says v'izal nochach penei olmen nami davka, right? Mean the hatam lav davka, chanami lav davka. It's lav davka. So he says matkif la Rav Yosef la Rabbi Yehuda mean the el davka nami davka. So he says if el is davka, so to al is davka. But he says no. The Mikdash Sheni, we're talking about the Bet HaMikdash, the second one. De lo havu aron v'kaporet. Remember, in the second Bet HaMikdash, there was no aron. There were 5 things that were lacking between the first Bet HaMikdash and the second Bet HaMikdash. The aron HaKodesh was not there. There was nothing. It was empty. Yeah, also. Right? The fire that went, Hachenami de lo avid hasaot, so too he didn't do hasaot. So Amar Rabba Bar Ula Amar Kra, the pasuk says v'chiper mikdash hakodesh the makom mekudash lakodesh. That means even though there was no aron, it's still kadosh. So you couldn't walk in. That means even though you're going to walk in and there's nothing there, it's a sur. You're not allowed to. And that's why they used to do everything where the place where the aron was. Right? V'Rav Amar haveha Rabbanan. Both of them are talking about Rabbanan. Hayde kai mizach marav adi. Right? We're talking about that he's coming from the mizach marav. Veha dekai tzafon v'darom v'adi. You're talking about from the north to the south. Okay, you want to get to the Mishnah? So Amar more says, ושבפנים שבמצורע שלא לשמם פסולות, שלא מכוונות כשרות. והתניא, we learned in a Braita, בין שלא לשמם ושלא מכוונות, it's going to be kosher. So Amar Rav Yosef, it's not a question. like Rabbi Eliezer Rabbanan. Rabbi Eliezer, he's making a hekesh between the Hasham and the Chatat. So he's also going to make a hekesh between the log of the shemen, of the mitzorah, right, the Hasham. Rabbanan, they don't make a hekesh. You can't be makish to everything. Rabbi Eliezer, and according to Rabbi Eliezer, וכי דבר על מי בהיקש, חוזר, when you learn something with a hekesh, you can't learn it again with another hekesh. So he says, Elamarava, Hava Rabbanan, really it's Rabbanan, kan lachshir v'kan lehartzot. Here we're talking about lachshir, and here we're talking about lehartzot. Lachshir is to make a kosher, the one is lehartzot, right, that it should be yeratzeh. Okay?